On the 271st day of unemployment and the 101st day of being broken up in love, Young opened the computer web page and touched the keyboard with his fingertips, but was unable to start. Since leaving his last company, Young has almost never found another serious job. The only company I interviewed with, after experiencing the work atmosphere for half a day on the day of joining, Young seemed to be running away. Of course, before running away, I went through the formal resignation procedures. After returning the notebook I received in the morning to the confused-looking girl at the front desk, I walked out of the office building gracefully. Then outside the office building, he skillfully took out a lighter, lit a cigarette, and took a big puff. At that moment, he thought, "It is impossible to work part-time. It is impossible for me to work part-time in this life." In the next half year, Young started 2 businesses, both of which ended in failure. It was the first time he tried his best. Although the investment was not big, all the women who lost money ran away. When they broke up, Young didn't redeem himself. In his own words, he had no face to redeem himself, who let him eat someone else's soft rice for several months. Not long after the breakup, Young started his second business venture. The always cautious man chose all in this time and invested his small savings and the funds collected from his former colleagues and classmates into a business that seemed to be a sure profit. However, on the night when the product test was about to go online, the outsourced developer ran away overnight, and Young lost all his investment overnight. That night, the world rejected him. That night, who hurt whom? After withdrawing his thoughts, Young took a few mouthfuls of the turkey noodles in the bowl that were so spicy that it hit his throat and sighed secretly. This is the last pack of turkey noodles. The next meal? Young shook his head and continued to talk to himself. Let's go to a restaurant for the next meal. That's right. Although he owes a lot of debt, Young firmly believes that he cannot lower his living standards too much and just muddle along. How is that different from the rats? They can't eat well, so how can they have ambitions in their chests, and how can they turn around in the future? Looking forward to the next big meal, Young cleaned up the last remnants and then fell into deep thought in front of the computer. Should I continue to look for a job to relieve some debt pressure, or should I look for the next project? But without funds and a shell, how can we continue to work on projects? At this time, Young seemed to have no choice. He opened a certain degree with his fingers weakly and typed the 3 words "some job network" on it. While typing, he was thinking a lot. It would be great if people could develop their own abilities. I am a project that needs to be developed urgently. If I have to help myself, then I, Young, will definitely be the best among people. Thinking of this, Young couldn't help but have an idea. He entered the words "developing human potential" into the search box, and many search results came out. Young flipped through the pages one by one, and when he saw the serious title, "Collection of Magical Methods for Developing Special Functions," he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Why did he accidentally read these unwarranted things? It was so naive compared to his childhood. Ding, ding, ding. Just as Young continued to search the recruitment website, the sound of push information came from the mobile phone beside him. Young picked up his phone and glanced at it casually. When he saw that it wasn't a WeChat message, he wanted to put it down. However, when he saw that it was a notice from the Meteorological Bureau, Young took a closer look. It turned out to be a weather warning for the city. It said that the city had activated an orange warning for strong winds, and citizens were asked to pay attention to falling objects from high altitudes. Young didn't take it seriously. This kind of thing happened a lot before. I think the circle of friends will be lively again by then. Young put down his phone and was about to open the recruitment website when suddenly there was a loud, thunderous noise, which made the window next to him tremble. Young thought it was the demolition of the old community next door that had started again, and he was muttering in his heart, "There are so many more households to be demolished." When I lamented that people are not born equal, the water in the cup next to the computer began to ripple, and then the second-hand bookshelf that I bought began to shake slightly, And then it seemed that there was a chain reaction, and all the movable objects in the house were shaking to varying degrees. Baiyang reacted immediately and ran to the door with a F***CK sound. He opened the door and rushed out. He went downstairs several times faster than usual when getting takeout. He ran from the 4th floor to the 1st floor in less than 10 seconds. It was noon at this time. There were not many people outside. Most of them were probably eating at home. Sure enough, not long after Baiyang ran downstairs, many men and women rushed out one after another, including all kinds of screams. Not to mention them, Baiyang also experienced this kind of excitement for the first time. Fortunately, the sense of movement stopped shortly after they ran out of the building. Everyone stood in the square outside the unit building in the community, with horror in their eyes. It's no wonder that H City has rarely encountered an earthquake in decades. Like Baiyang, it may be the first time for many people to experience it. Demolishing a house won't cause such a big fuss. Baiyang joked to himself to calm his still beating heart. Didn't the early warnings say that a strong wind is coming? Why hasn't the wind come yet, and the earthquake has come first? An uncle next to him said in shock. It should be soon. Baiyang thought like this, feeling that nothing good happened to him. Look over there, someone exclaimed, and everyone looked in the direction pointed by the voice. They saw that the small half of the sky in the east was purple, which was in sharp contrast with the other side. It was like dark blue paper being splashed with purple ink, spreading out at a speed visible to the naked eye and rushing towards this side like a tide. This is Huashaoyan? Someone asked. No, aren't Huashao clouds all red? And the sun is still overhead at noon. Where did the Huashao clouds come from? However, everyone thought of the same thing while being surprised, which was to take out their mobile phones and point them at the small half of the sky. Baiyang was no exception. At the same time, Baiyang quickly scrolled through several circles of friends and found that people in the city or nearby areas had seen the same scene. After quickly asking a few friends scattered all over the world, Baiyang found that this scene only appeared in coastal areas. Even in Q City, a coastal city in S province a few hundred kilometers north. In other words, the fire cloud-like thing came from the sea and spread inland, and it happened shortly after the earthquake. Could the two be connected? Just as Baiyang was contemplating and speculating, he suddenly felt warm air blowing on his face. It was weak at first, but gradually became bigger and bigger. Then his whole body felt like he was bathing in the warm spring breeze, which was very comfortable. The wind is blowing. Many people felt it. Normally, no one would be so sensitive because although it is spring, it has been a bit cool in the past few days, and the temperature outside is only more than 10 degrees. But now it feels like the temperature has instantly increased by 10 degrees, just like entering a heated and air-conditioned room. It's the east wind. Baiyang secretly said, no wonder the fire clouds can float so fast. In just a few minutes, the purple fire cloud floated closer, like a boundless piece of purple silk pulled by an invisible force, as if it was going to cross the earth and cover the people. Baiyang also felt something was wrong at this time, because the wind was strengthening, causing the leaves in the square to rustle. Not only that, as the purple bolt-like clouds quickly approached, a strong sense of depression arose on the face. The previous comfortable feeling of warm wind blowing on the face was gone, replaced by an inexplicable fear. Isn't this a poison gas attack launched by the American emperor? Baiyang suddenly had a ridiculous idea at this moment, and rushed upstairs to return home. He didn't care whether there would be aftershocks. He rummaged through the box to find the mask he used to deal with the smog and put it on, and then quickly went downstairs. Seeing him as if he was facing a formidable enemy, others suddenly became agitated. They all went home and followed suit. Those who didn't have masks simply covered themselves with a towel soaked in water, and then returned to the square. They all seemed to feel that they felt safer in crowded places. The square was buzzing with people. Baiyang looked around and estimated that everyone in the community was gathered here. You won't be picked up from the same pot later, right? Bai Yong then had such a tragic thought in his heart, and then he could only shake his head and throw away the distracting thoughts, and took out his mobile phone to check if there was any latest updated news. Sure enough, when he opened a news app, the headlines were eye-catching related reports, and there were even live broadcasts by the media. However, there was no official statement to explain this phenomenon, but the comments from various keyboard warriors were very active. It must be a certain country's poisonous gas and dirty tricks. Let the whole people prepare for war. Liked more than 10,000 times. It seems that many people have similar ideas to Bai Yong. My compatriots along the coast, I take this seriously, and I will burn paper money for you today next year. No need to look closely, there must be a lot of quarrel below this comment. I hope the compatriots along the coast are safe and sound. Looking at this battle, the whole country cannot avoid it. Some people should not gloat. What beautiful clouds! I really want to see this scene with my own eyes. Bai Yong rolled his eyes and sneered at some comments, but most people seemed to have an unoptimistic attitude towards this. Even if it was not artificial, it was not a good thing. In addition, Bai Yong also came across several other blockbuster news. The report mentioned that earthquakes of varying degrees occurred in many coastal areas around the world. Most of them were not strong, and the source of the earthquake was not on land, but in the sea close to the land. Experts reminded coastal areas to be prepared for tsunamis and to evacuate people urgently, if necessary. And just like Bai Yang's judgment, the report suggested that the abnormal phenomena in the sky are most likely related to the occurrence of earthquakes. However, it is still unclear the cause of the earthquake and the composition of the fire cloud, so it is impossible to judge whether it is harmful to the human body. Relevant chemical prevention departments have rushed to various coastal areas to conduct sampling investigations, and the investigation conclusions will be given in subsequent reports. That's not quite right. Bai Yong put away his phone and murmured to himself. When he looked up again, he found that the purple ink-like clouds were floating closer. And when he got closer, he realized that the height of the purple clouds was much lower and thicker than other clouds. It was more like fog than clouds. Previously, my view was blocked by the community and nearby high-rise buildings, so I took it for granted that those were high-altitude clouds. No, I have to go home. Bai Yong thought this, and then quickly pushed aside the crowd and rushed home. This time, everyone did not follow suit like before. Bai Yong didn't care about others. When he got home, he closed the doors and windows tightly. The only gap left was blocked with damp towels and clothes, thinking that even if the purple mist was pervasive, it could at least be able to resist it. Bai Yong then called his parents at home and confirmed that they were all at home and had done as he said. Then he hung up the phone with confidence, slumped on the sofa with a long breath, looked up at the light purple mist that had gradually begun to fill the window, and waited quietly. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of a text message came from the mobile phone again. After checking, it was found that it was a message jointly issued by the Municipal Meteorological Bureau and the municipal government. The content was to remind citizens to be careful when going out and stay at home with the doors and windows closed. For further advice, please wait for official news reports and SMS notifications. Putting down the phone, Bai Yong was glad that he had temporarily hugged the Buddha's feet. Otherwise, it was unknown what the consequences would be. Although I have failed to start a business several times, I have developed a sense of crisis and know how to do some things to prepare for a rainy day. After waiting like this for a few minutes, the purple mist outside the window became thicker and thicker. A faint trace of purple mist could be seen seeping out from the gap blocked with a wet towel. Bai Yong put on the mask he took off when he entered the house to seal the door and windows and murmured, "It seems that nothing happened in the area where the purple mist passed, so it should be fine." As soon as he finished speaking, a woman's frightened scream suddenly came from the originally quiet window. Bai Yong was very sure that this was not like the hysterical scream of the woman in the unit building opposite when she was arguing with her husband. Bai Yong could only hear fear from this kind of sound. Could it be true? Bai Yong was frightened and stood up from the sofa. Chapter 2 Tsunami is coming. Just when Bai Yong thought that the purple mist could kill people, a rumbling sound began to be heard outside, from far to near, like rolling thunder, shaking the objects in the house slightly. Aftershocks are coming? Although Bai Yong was a little panicked, he was not too worried. The earthquake just now did not cause any damage, so aftershocks should be fine. Bai Yong comforted himself while looking out the window. The purple haze had reduced the visibility a lot. In the hazy moment, Bai Yong seemed to see something like a white wall coming towards the street not far away. All the movable objects in the street were almost swallowed up by it, including the tables and chairs of the food stalls, the vehicles parked on the roadside, and even the pedestrians running away in front. Is that a tsunami? Bai Yong reacted and was immediately frightened to death. The next moment, he could no longer care whether the purple mist was harmful to people. In fact, he had forgotten about it. He opened the door as fast as he could and rushed upstairs in 3 steps. Until he reached the rooftop of the 7th floor, Bai Yong moved his trembling legs and slowly moved to the edge of the rooftop to observe the scene below. The tsunami wall, which was about 2 meters high, quickly swept through the building downstairs, destroying everything low and visible. Fortunately, the unit building where Bai Yong was located was not an isolated building, but a row house with 6 connected units, so its resistance was much stronger. Just like that, Bai Yong sat paralyzed on the damp rooftop, feeling the slight vibration caused by the impact of the water waves with fear. During this period, many people rushed up to avoid the tsunami. The panicked people seemed to have not recovered from the series of blows. They were all as if they had lost their souls and remained silent. Some of them were just women crying with fear, but they could not hear the sound of waves caused by the seawater wading downstairs. Bai Yong lit a cigarette. The only comfort he had now was that his cell phone and cigarette were both there. With these 2 things, a man would naturally feel safe. However, his cell phone had no signal and could not contact the outside world for the time being. Bai Yong wanted to look far into the distance several times, but the purple mist blocked most of his sight. At this time, there was no sunshine in the sky and earth, and maybe there would be no sunshine for a long time in the future. After smoking a cigarette and calming down a bit, Bai Yong began to think carefully about everything he had experienced in this short period of time. Earthquake, tsunami, purple mist, the first 2 have been experienced, but this purple mist is not a blessing or a curse, but there seems to be no problem at the moment, and there is no physical discomfort, but he can't control it anyway, so let's leave it to fate. Dude, can I borrow a cigarette? Just as Bai Yong continued to lament that the experience of this short half-day was like a dream, a slightly tired male voice sounded next to him. Bai Yong looked sideways, and through the purple mist, he could vaguely see a young man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, thin and with a depressed expression. He looked to be only a year or 2 younger than himself. It seems that I have never seen him in this unit building before. He must have just moved here or just came here to take refuge. Bai Yong thought this way, then opened the cigarette case and handed it to the man. Thanks. Lighter. The young man stuttered a little. Thank you. The young man lit the cigarette shakily and said thank you again. Bai Yong watched him smoke with interest. He took a puff and immediately spit it out without entering his lungs. Don't you know how to smoke? No. No, this is my first time playing this. The young man smiled sheepishly. I'm sorry for wasting your cigarette, but I thought this thing should be of some use. He explained immediately, and then covered his trembling right hand. It's okay. There's not enough left here. Bai Yong shook the cigarette in his hand and said with a faint smile, I've never seen you before. Bai Yong continued, I changed my job and just moved here. I live on the 1st floor. My name is Bai Yong. Hello, Brother Bai. My name is Yulei. Just call me Xiaolei. Bai Yong nodded, not politely, and continued to ask, What do you do? Programmer. Yulei scratched his head and said, Not bad. The future is bright. Nowhere, just a casual meal. You're so humble, Bai Yong said with a slight smile. After that, the two of them stopped talking. The current situation really made people lose their minds. Bai Yang took a deep breath, calmed down his ups and downs in the past half day, and then said to Yulei, who was dazed next to him, "What do you think of this?" What? Yulei came back to his senses and realized that Bai Yang was asking him. After a moment of silence, he said, "It seems that there were earthquakes in many coastal areas, and then the tsunami was triggered, and there was this purple fog." After Yulei finished speaking, he tried to brush away the purple fog in front of his eyes, but it was in vain. "And you see, this fog doesn't seem to be in the shape of a liquid, let alone a solid particle like haze." Yulei touched the back of his hand again and found no trace of moisture or powder. Bai Yang nodded in agreement. When Yulei said this, he also discovered this. Then it could be a gas, the same as chlorine? Bai Yang asked. Most likely. There is another important point. Before Bai Yang could speak, Yulei pushed up his glasses and continued to speak seriously, which was very different from the shyness before. "It's very strange that earthquakes occurred in so many places around the world almost at the same time without any signs or warnings." Bai Yang also recalled carefully that there seemed to be no early warning news in the news before, and some were just afterthoughts. "I don't know what the situation is like now, especially where Bai Yang's hometown is, and what's the safety of his parents. Fortunately, they are located further inland and should not be affected by the tsunami." After attracting his thoughts, Bai Yang couldn't help but admired, looked at Yulei and said, "The analysis is very reasonable, Brother Lei." Yulei felt embarrassed immediately after hearing this, and returned to his shy appearance, completely different from before. "Damn it, you don't have a split personality," Bai Yang thought to himself. He couldn't say it out loud, but he had already decided in his heart that Yulei was definitely a talent. "Brother Bai, what do you think we should do now?" At this time, the shy Yulei looked a little helpless, no longer as confident as when he analyzed the problem before. The tsunami came so fast that most people probably haven't reacted yet, and the affected area was probably quite large. I don't know if the government has enough manpower and material resources to rescue. If it doesn't work, then we will have to save ourselves. It's okay. We can go downstairs and prepare some food later. My house is on the 4th floor, and it won't flood there yet. We just wait for rescue. Although he thought in his heart that if others don't save me, I will save myself, but Bai Yang still comforted Yulei, saying, "Brother, I will protect you." Yulei was also moved and nodded in thanks. When did this happen? Someone finally couldn't help it anymore and began to complain hoarsely, which also caused a chain reaction, with the cries of women and children mixed in from all around. Bai Yang shook his head helplessly, then stood up and walked to the rooftop to observe the situation, which lasted 10 minutes. Yulei also walked up curiously and asked, "Brother Bai, what are you looking at?" Bai Yang turned around and asked, "Do you know how often the crest of a tsunami comes?" "Are you talking about the interval?" "I have seen reports and related science popularization during the tsunami in Japan. The shortest time is a few minutes, and the long time is only 10 or dozens of minutes." Yulei recalled. Bai Yang looked at his phone and said, "Then he hasn't been here for at least 10 minutes. Yulei understood what Bai Yang meant, and then sat next to Bai Yang and began to observe. The two of them were watching and chatting. During this period,